Hey guys, welcome back to Weld.com for episode 2 of the grill build. So today we got a lot of stuff going on. We got a short time span to get this stuff done in, and we still have a lot of stuff to do on the grill. Mike's going to kick things off by building the burn racks. I'm going to start working on this piece, trying to build the upper portion, getting all that stuff ready. Probably won't get that 100% done because we're waiting on some parts to come in, and we have to have all this done in about 3 days so we can step off to California. So let's get cracking. You ready, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. All right, so Mike looks like he's got everything handled over there as far as the burn racks. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and put in this centerpiece because we're gonna have two separate cooking surfaces. So we need to split between the two. So basically, I've just put a strut in between in the middle of the section, measured it out equally, squared everything up, and I put a couple little pieces of angle underneath here to hold me flush right across the top. So I've got everything ready to go, squared up. I'm on my marks. I just did a center mark on this square tube and a center mark on this square tube, matched them up, and then just verified it was square. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tack these in. One little trick, if you have a regular carpenter square like this, okay, this is a carpenter square meant for carpenters, the guys work with wood. It's a welder square. So what I did is I just cut off like the last ½ inch at a 45-degree angle. That way I can get in and double check everything is square even after I've put a tack weld in there or a weld. It's just gonna help you get up into those areas to where you can still check all your work. So little trick I picked up. So I tack welded the opposite side, so it's actually pulling this tube up a little bit. So I wanna make sure that I can get it back down to where I need it. All right, so everything's flush across the top. Got my pieces centered. I'm squared up. I'm gonna go ahead, I've got this end tacked. I'm gonna go ahead and tack up the other side. Double check it one more time for square and straightness, and then I'm gonna weld it out. Okay, so what I wanna do now is I'm gonna take these two uprights, I'm gonna line them up end to end, make sure they're all good. I'm gonna come down 4½ inches, I'm gonna make a center mark, and I'm gonna cut this out about let's say about 1 1/8 because the rod that I have that's gonna go through here, or the tube that I have that's gonna go through here is 1 inch outside diameter. And I've got a couple pillow blocks that are being shipped. I'm waiting for those to come in, but the pillow blocks are gonna be mounted right here. And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's basically just like a cast iron hub with a bearing in the center of it. So I'll be able to run that rod through there, hit it with a couple of set screws, and it'll give some good turning action right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill the through hole on both of these while I wait for that pillow block to get here in the mail, and then I'll lay the rest of it out and drill those holes. So one little thing I like to do, I'm gonna do a layout on both of these. I'm just gonna clamp it with a pair of vice grips. That keeps my ends completely close together. Now if I move it around the table, I don't have to reposition it, or if somebody walks by and bumps it, I don't have to worry about realigning this stuff. Okay, so just clamp that down. That way keep everything equal. I'm gonna come down 4½ inches. Because that's where I want the center of that horizontal roller to be. That's how we're gonna adjust the height of the cooking surface. So I'm right there at 4½. Okay, now we have to do the other side. So because this is the edge I need to pull from, I can do a couple different things. One being, I can put up a square against here, and I can pull 4½ that way. Or I could transfer the mark that I have from the other side. So I'm probably just gonna do that. I'm gonna drill this hole out a little bit bigger than I need it anyway, so I should have the tolerance in there to do that. So I'm gonna just line my square up with the edge of that mark and just transfer it right over here. So now I have 4½ inches on both sides. Okay, now I'm gonna find center, and I'm gonna center punch it. Okay, so because I want the hole in the center of this, I could measure it out with my tape measure and then just mark 1 inch, but I have to do that 4 times. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set my combination square to the 1 inch mark. Hit here, here, boom, boom. Okay, now I'm good. Now I'm just gonna hit these with a center punch and then they'll be ready for the hole saw. And just give it a good whack, that's all you need. Okay, so a couple reasons I put that on there. One, now I have a permanent mark of exactly where I need to start my drill bit. Two, that center punch is gonna help keep my drill bit from walking or moving out. So whenever you go to use a drill bit, you know, if you don't use a center punch, that drill bit has a tendency to start walking. And if you use it in a drill press, it could walk so far that it'll snap the bit or bend the bit. So having that little center punch in there is gonna help that bit stay centered, so it'll stay right on the exact mark. And it's just a lot easier for me to see than try to line it up with, you know, 2 pieces of soapstone. I'll grab the hole saw kit and we'll drill these out. All right, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm always having a hard time losing my earplugs. You should definitely be wearing earplugs anytime you're working in a shop environment, running the grinders, all that good stuff. But I always lose them in between what I'm working on. So what I used to do when I was in construction, you wrap this thing around your headband and your hard hat. It's always with you and you never lose it. All right, so I'm just gonna clean up these vertical pieces. These uprights are gonna go right along here with that crossbar going straight across. So I'm gonna get these cleaned up and then I'll build that out.
We're using 3/4 inch angle. I'm basically cutting this for the burn crates. I cut one at 23 3/4 exactly. Instead of pulling a tape measure every time, it wastes time. Just cut this perfect. Use this as your one every time, like your template. I just put it up here, mash mine up, flush, take a piece of soapstone, and just mark it, boom. And I just repeat, just keep doing that over and over until I hit my magic number.
All right, so what we're gonna do, how this is gonna work, is we want this frame to kind of sit like this and have everything equally spaced. Want the angles to toe down like that because this is where the burning area is going to be, so all the wood, charcoal, anything like that is going to fall through. Mike did the math, came up with about 1/2 inch spacing in between here is going to make it look good. But instead of trying to flip it over, you know, with the pieces in here like this and trying to fight them with spacing and centering and all that, we're just going to build it flat on the table. So he's going to line the edges up here, get his 1/2 inch spacing in between, then we're going to take a piece of flat stock and just put a little tack across everything. So it's going to hold this frame rigid so that we can then place it in here and get it all tacked in. And once we're done, because we only have it tacked on one side, we'll be able to take a crescent wrench and just break that bar off. So everything will be nice, symmetrical, even, and square without having to fight it. All right, so while Mike's over there getting that grates prepped up, I'm gonna go ahead and work on the upper section. I put 2 of these tab and slot tables together, which is gonna make my life a whole lot easier because my top piece is 4 foot. Both of these tables are 2 foot apiece. Push them together, I got 4 foot. I put a clamp underneath, keeping the 2 tables together. So now I can operate without having to worry about the table sliding out or rolling out from underneath me because I bump into it or whatever. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fix these in here. I'm gonna use these Fireball corner clamps once again. These things will be perfect for getting this exactly laid out. So I want nice tight 45 or 90 degree angles once I'm done. So I get these clamped in and squared up. We'll be ready to go. I'll be able to mount it up here eventually. I'll put my center cross piece in here. I'll probably do that once I get it in position. It's just gonna be easier that way. I like to kind of build everything in place if I can. This is some of the benefits of learning how to weld out of position. You don't always have to lay everything flat. I can work and build the pieces to the frame and it'll look much better aesthetically. And then your measurements don't get thrown out. You know, you got to deal less with your tape measure. Everything just fits in kind of nice and neat. So we'll go ahead and start setting that up. These things so far have been awesome. They've been a real time saver versus trying to hold everything in place. Probably a little overkill for something like this, but just to kind of show you guys the general premise, how to fabricate. I've done the same thing, doing columns and frames, all kinds of different stuff. Gates, ladders, keep everything pinned down. That way your heat doesn't move it. Now I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna double check all my dimensions. I'm gonna double check everything, make sure it's square. Even the Fireball, these mega squares are gonna keep me square. I'm just gonna double verify everything. You always wanna make sure that these are flush, you know, so if they're not, you can tap it with a hammer. Another benefit of these tab and slot tables, they're flat, right? So, I mean, it makes life a lot easier, but if you have a tack on there you're not aware of, it could raise your edges up a little bit. So you always wanna be mindful to keep everything flush before you get into welding it. All right, so everything's squared up. So now I'm just gonna double check my dimensions. The last thing I wanna do is have perfect 90-degree corners, and then this side is too wide or too short. I know my base is exactly 48 inches out to out. It's 2-inch square tubing. I should be 48 inches out to out on the bottom here, as well as the top. And that's exactly what I am at the bottom. And I'm just gonna verify the top. I mean, trust yourself, but verify, right? I've fooled myself several times. See, I'm a 16th out here. Not that it, you know, it's a big deal, but before I get anything in there, before I get any weld on there, I can always check it and just go back through and work it and make sure it looks nice. Okay, so I put a little V-bevel on the edges right here on the square tube, because when these match up, I'm gonna get a little bit better penetration that way, because with these, we're gonna grind the welds flush on the outside just for aesthetics, so everything's got like a nice, smooth, clean appearance. I'll do the inside welds. I'll go vertical down on those, probably vertical down on these outside corners, and then I'll clean these corners up. So you'll notice that Mancub and I have both been welding our MIG downhill. It's 14 gauge material. We're getting plenty of penetration in there, so it's perfectly acceptable. Like I said before, you know, once we start getting into thicker materials, you know, you're gonna wanna go uphill, but you know, typically 1/4 inch and below, you can run downhill just fine. Okay, so now that I have everything lined up, I've got two sides welded, I shifted it off the table a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and grind this flush, and then I'm gonna knock this corner off, fill it back in with weld, blend grind that before I flip it back over to the other side. I'll catch the flat side and then wrap right into that vertical down on the opposite side. All right, so this is a good time to use your old beat up flapper wheels. You got flapper wheels that, you know, they're just not as aggressive as they used to be. Take that old flapper wheel and use that to detail your corners, because I don't want to take off a bunch of metal at one time. If I throw a new 80 grit, you know, pad on here and start sanding, I'm gonna take out big chunks of metal. I just want to smooth everything out. I want this to look kind of formed, like it wasn't welded, right? That's just kind of the look that we're going for on it, like a seamless transition. So you can use an old flapper wheel to clean all that stuff up without worrying about it Coke bottling or digging into the material too deep. Oh, she purty. Okay, so as I'm setting these up, I went ahead and I pulled marks 13 inches back, because all my tubing is 2 inches wide, right? It's 2x2 square tubing, and this piece right here is 2x1. So I went ahead, dead center would be 12 inches, right? So I offset that additional inch, which would be 13. That tells me exactly where the back side of my material needs to sit at. Okay, you can do, some people just mark the center of the square tube and then mark center on there and match the two center marks up. I always just like to compensate for the width of the material, and then I can double check when I put everything back up here. So offset at 1 inch, I'm at 13, all 3 spots. I know exactly, I got an X here which tells me that's the side that I need to put my material on. Very similar if you guys have ever framed a house or put up a roof, they do the same thing. You know, that's where your stud mark's gonna go. So that's kind of where I picked it up, roofing back in the day. So that's exactly where my square tube's gonna sit, is on top of that X. The back of it's gonna go against that mark there. Okay, I am on my mark over here. I am squared. And this should hit 11 inches if everything's correct. And I'm right at 11 inches. So now I'm just gonna put a couple tacks on her. I'm gonna tack on the corners. Ooh, the lordy. I'm missing one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What the f?
Love it when a plan comes together.
I didn't even count it. Next time I'll count it. Dang it! So I'm putting tacks on this back side of this angle right here where it holds all the logs, because we're gonna throw logs in here and we don't want it to break. So we're gonna put a tack right here all the way down the left side. Then we're gonna flip this over, then weld on the opposite side all the way down. So it's not gonna twist or anything or break when they throw 10-pound logs in or 20-pound logs in. So that's it. That's all ready to go. What we're gonna do is sand it down and paint it. Or we probably ain't gonna paint this because logs get thrown in here, high heat. It will just burn the paint off too quick. Jason, got a burn rack done.
Awesome.
We got one more to make.
All right, so what I've done here is I just moved this frame over to somewhere that's, completely level, and I've added this rod. This is gonna be the rod that's gonna turn to raise and lower the cooking surfaces. So we drilled this hole out earlier at 1 1/16 because I have 1 inch diameter tube. It's outside diameter tube, and I've spaced it here with a 1/16 piece of TIG wire just to kind of lift it up to where it sits center of the hole, because I'm gonna have a pillow block that's gonna sit on here that's gonna hold it exactly center. It'll be bearing driven, it'll be a lot easier to operate. On this side, I just have like a little stopper and a catch. I don't have to worry about the tube sliding in and out because I'm gonna have stoppers on there. Once we got some additional accessories that are gonna go over here that are gonna prevent the rod from being able to pull in or out. So right now I'm just kind of lining up this receiver here. I'm going to do the same on this side, and then we're going to weld these out. So I've got a magnet right here that's just going to hold this tube in place to where I can get my marks. That way I'm going to take this back out, and then I'll be able to take it over to the table. We'll TIG weld that out. I'm going to do the same on both sides. So right now I got everything set for the upright or the center post. So I'm going to go ahead and mount it. I've got my line drawn out where my X is, and then I'm going to put it up here, clamp a piece of angle on the back so it'll sit flush against here. I don't have to mess around with that. And then I'm going to use a square, true this thing up, and then weld this piece in.
A little quick tip of the day, guys. Use a little bit anti-spatter Tedesco. Just spray it on here, overlap it by 50%. That will eliminate most or all of your BBs on the table when you're fitting. You get a nice, good, even fit, so you don't have to worry about that, cutting apart your materials or anything.
Today's Just a Tip with Mancub is brought to you by Tedesco.
Just the table, guys, just the table.
That's episode 2. Mike got the burn grates done. We got the uprights in. Got everything ready for the rotator. What else did we do?
Oh, you reinforced it.
We did some reinforcement. We're going to go ahead and put some additional guides in here later on. We still have a lot to do. Stay tuned for episode 3. A lot of cool stuff. Make sure you sign up for the Good to Land Fest. Go out there and see that. Check out Sam the Cooking Guy's channel because that's who we're building the grill for. Go give him some likes. Show him some love.
What we doing in episode 3? You gotta let them look forward for the next episode.
Got a lot of stuff coming up in episode 3, so make sure to tune in.
All right, that's a little better. I like it.
A little better?
Yeah.
We need to dangle some more fruit in front of them.
Hey, learning is key, guys. Learn something new every day. I know I did like 3 or 4 things today.
We'll be rolling some handles in the next episode. Maybe start building a cart for this apparatus. Get a hold of Sam the Cooking Guy.
Oh yeah, I'm building the stainless steel grates.
Mike's gonna build the grates for the food cooking surface. Got a lot of cool stuff coming up, so make sure you tune in. Until next time, make your world better than your last.
Learning is key, guys. Right on.